the entity in the med group that evaluates the health risk of the mission to whoever, whether it be an industrial worker, it could be a civilian industrial worker on a base like Tinker, where we come from, or it could be actually some type of mission for somebody in uniform. I'm going to back up a second, because one thing I realized I didn't introduce myself. Hello, I am Captain Kevin Whitney. I am Commodities Element Chief at Bioenvironmental Engineering Flight at Tinker Air Force Base. And this is Lieutenant Trump.
I'm Lieutenant John. I'm from aircraft. I'm a chief aircraft bioenvironmental engineering flight, just like I'm with me.
So we're broken into three elements. There's three large entities that do maintenance on Tinker Air Force Base. So basically there's an officer who is in charge of the bio mission for each of those entities. Come on in if you're part of this group. If not,
I'm just looking for people.
you're good. You're good. So, as I was saying before, we basically provide health risk assessment. So, OSHA has requirements for workers, whether they're in the military or civilians working in DOD, of course, just your general worker out there in the industry. So we are the people that evaluate whether or not the way in which the work is being performed meets all of the OSHA requirements. And that is our in-garrison mission. Hopefully not using terms you know, in-garrison means home station, means here. Our deployed mission that we would potentially get on a plane and fly out somewhere to do is more the same. And yet there's the whole element of CBRN, chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear surveillance. So obviously, you know, we might be heading out somewhere and we have an enemy that could potentially attack the installation that you're assigned as a bioenvironmental engineering troop.
To add on that, we are the only entity in the Air Force allowed to respond to any seaborne scenario across the installation. So remember, we have Fukushima. Who knows what happened in Japan? Right? Well, we are the first people who deploy, respond to Fukushima first. What we do seaborne, and we advise DOD on especially radiation related issue with nuclear, anything related to nuclear weapon or RDD. Who knows what RDD means?
RDD?
RDD, radioactive dispersion device, right?
Your dirty bomb.
Yeah, we do all of that, plastic, bioagent, and then chemical agent.
But only after the EOD, the explosive part, is going to, we're not going to get blown up trying to look for some radiation. So that's the one part of CBRN-E, we don't do E, we do everything up to that. So we have level A suits, so we look like the spaceman, you know, with that, and we're out there with the Geiger meter, trying to measure, you know, radiation. We set up very sophisticated sampling equipment in order to monitor chemical, biological, whatever exposure it is. And of course, there is a piece of equipment that we have for each and every potential scenario that we would come up with and such. Some of the information on the back here will give. So first off, this fact sheet is put together by our B corporate board. And it basically has the mission, the vision, everything that we do, a lot of what I just said, but what I wanted to show you on the back there, you kind of see how big the officer corps is for the Bs. And there's only 330 worldwide B officers. So we claim because we're the best of the best. And I'm sure you'll hear that about everybody else. But I think we back it up with, you know, not just that slogan, but with the fact that we're out there every day helping, you know, whoever make sure that they're going to go home safe at the end of the day. So you've heard, you know, Agent Orange from way back when. You heard about Gulf War syndrome. Our job is to evaluate the real potential that people are going to come down with whatever the next thing is. So we're out there constantly evaluating the exposures that people would have in an industrial workplace or in a deployed setting if they're working on some specialized device that uses XYZ chemical.
How does that, excuse me, how does that translate into day-to-day work? What do you do on a day-to-day basis?
You want to take that one?
Yeah, well, depends what you're talking about. We
I'm gonna sit down now. Can I have my water right there? Thank you.
we had a jack of all trades. So every day going in, you have plan to do, but you have operation. Daily operation you have. So we work at Tinker. We support the industrial complex of the Airport Sustainment Center, right? You're talking about we have aircraft coming from. You know what we mean life cycle management. So the aircraft needs to go and fix, and you fix the whole thing, right? So thinking about the aircraft coming from the beginning, so we break the aircraft apart, repaint it, fix every little piece of it, and get it out in 3 months. And that's for KC 135, B2 engine, F16 engine, E3 and E6. You know E3 you know what
Century.
E3, yes, the E3 Century, and then you know E6, the looking glass, the one little corner that they use communication with the submarine for nuclear attack, and also the B1 at Tinker that we do. So every day we come in, we analyze chemical and then have involve anything chemical in the process it that the shop use, and make sure they have proper training, proper PPE, right? And then how to handle them. What beside that we oversight DoD transition on distribution of aircraft parts. We're talking radioactive material because aircraft, right? And then big engine have radioactive material in it. And then we distribute it, make sure it transport from one place to another, and make sure we store it safely. People don't get exposed. And then also we oversee EMF operation, electromagnetic frequency. You get exposed to high level impact. But guess what? Your eye is like a little egg, right? You get cooked inside. So that's it.
So all those shops that are designing or rebuilding radar systems, we're in there making sure they're doing it in such a way that it's not going to impact their health whatsoever. Feel free to pull up another chair. We didn't really know how many. And so to expand on what Lieutenant Tron was saying, so a day-to-day, we have industrial hygiene and we have emergency response. Those are the two things that we're doing. So that's to simplify the answer to your question. On the industrial hygiene side is kind of what we've been talking about. So as the Air Force is doing the mission, whether for like Tinker, that's rebuilding these big planes and trying to do it in 30 days. And if you've never seen it, it's amazing the fact that they can do that. Tear it down to just back the frame and put it back together and the thing flies in the air again. I'm baffled. But they have big industrial processes, right? Because planes aren't little tiny things. We took over a auto manufacturing plant and we don't even do full planes in it because it's still not big enough. We have a bigger building that's a little bit older that we have the full planes in. But just the scale at which we do at Tinker. And there's several of those in the Air Force. And then there's other, so that's within our command, is the whole material command. You have other things, like you have the Air Combat Command, right? So you guys, I'm telling you guys all stuff that you don't know this. But they have different missions. And so so you still do industrial hygiene even when it's not a base that is building a plane, but it's a base that has a golf course. So we go to the golf course and we basically we look at the guy who's required to spray pesticides all over the place, right? So is he wearing a respirator when he does it because it has an inhalation hazard? He could really screw up his lungs or give himself cancer spraying this stuff around. So we go in there, we say, okay, what are you using? What's the application for? How often are you using it? And we come up with recommendations. So one of our biggest requirements is to define the controls by which that person's health will be protected. You start with some engineering control, hence why you're an engineer. So, for example, a guy's in a paint booth and he's spraying this aircraft part and this is real nasty corrosion inhibitor. I won't say it out loud, but we have it. And they spray it, right? If he didn't have a respirator on, he'd be breathing all that stuff. And it's in the materials that is inside that paint or primer that he's spraying has been known to cause cancer. So one of the things is, number one, you just can't do that out here in the middle of the room, right? You have to do it inside of a paint booth that's ventilated, and the ventilation has to meet certain requirements. That's your engineering controls. So we help validate that the engineering controls that other engineers come up with truly, in fact, are protecting the health. It's doing what it's designed to do to protect the health of that worker. So that's your engineering control. We could also say there's an administrative control. You can only do that for half a day because you can't be exposed for a full 8 hours. We only want you to be exposed potentially for 8 hours to that activity. So that's an administrative control. And then we have PPE. Of course, that respirator or gloves or being in a level 8 suit, that's all protective equipment you can put on that would allow you to be in that hazardous environment but still not be affected. But that is the last thing on the list of preferences that we have for controls. So we're always going to want to try to engineer out the hazard and then somehow keep the person out of the hazard for a significant amount of time. And then, of course, when all else fails, we've got to get the mission done. This guy has to do something really nasty, work in a really nasty environment, so he's got to wear gloves and a Tyvek suit and a respirator and a hood and goggles. And, he looks like the elephant man out there trying to do this thing. So in essence, that's kind of what we do. And then you want to talk about the response.
And that's only for what? AMC, right? For ACC, Air Command. By the way, we're on call. We're on call 24/7. And there's a time when we're on call 24/7, we're not allowed to go out uptown. I mean, we got called, we got to put on the uniform and go and respond to the incident. When you're in ACC, there's a time frame, like 3 months, you're not allowed to go anywhere because you're on something called global risk. AMC, you in a team called global risk layout. I mean, you got deployed to over new bear base. So you go in with a team, access to the new base, maybe used to all by Russia. All bases that you can, build a new base and we can attack ISIS and whatnot. And that's ACC, you respond to, like Ebola, right? Like we have 3,000 troops over Africa supporting Ebola, and we play a role in it. We're a team in Langley Air Force Base, headquarters of ACC that deployed throughout the year just to do that, supported it. So while Seaborne and respond worldwide support.
So the other thing in garrison, it could be deployed, is fuel trucks going down the road and it spills over. We're going to be the first ones out there to assess how bad is the hazard, such that if it's a chemical like that, we're going to recommend to a commander, okay, you can have your people out there for half an hour in the conditions that they have, and then you need to rotate them out. Or you can have them out there for an hour, and this is how many people are going to be sick. If you have them out there for 2 hours, then how many people might die. So we make all of those we never tell, we don't tell anybody what to do. We just provide recommendations. And so one of the biggest things that we do is that health risk communication. So being a good communicator and trying to understand the details of the scenario that you want and relate that back to a commander in a way that they can understand. Because a lot of times we will have our own talk that most people don't understand.
So you say that in no cases do you actually take note and tell people what to do because it's ultimately the commander's decision?
Right, so we are a support function. It's just like your doctor can give you a recommendation. You won't have to listen to your doctor. The doctor could be a colonel and say, hey, you should really stay off that knee. But if you go and get an order from somebody in your chain of command that tells you to do something and you get hurt, he can't do anything about it. He's just your doctor in that capacity. So we truly are just consultants to the people that we're talking to. And the reality is, most of the time, our recommendations are going to full-bird colonels. So other than our boss, there's no other full-bird colonel. So we can't command them to do anything. But we just say that, we've been hired to provide him, solid recommendations based on our experience and education. 20.
In case of
What's your name?
Come here.
What's your name?
Cadet Sizemore. In case of a non-defense related civilian emergency, and I'm thinking along the lines of Katrina or fires or something like that, how often would you work with civilian incident command systems, sort of like just on your own? Can you be used as sort of a lend-out unit to work with civilians?
There would have to be a case-by-case basis where an MOU was put in place that we could actually work off an installation. However, as a bioenvironmental engineer, you could potentially be assigned to a CST, which is
Civil support.
Civil Support Team. So here in Oklahoma, we have the 63rd Civil Support Team, and if you are attached to that, it's a National Guard job or a state guard job, and you would then be the resource that would potentially respond. So you're a state entity, federalized member who would then respond, and they get to strap on a gun, and they get to fly in helicopters, and I'm jealous because we get to drive in a little blue truck.
But we try with them. We try to respond in different scenarios. So the only difference between us and them is that they have the mobile communication unit where we have a centralized unit on base. That's the only thing.
And they do a lot of surveillance, radiological surveillance at large events. We had an air show here at Tinker this last summer. They actually came down and helped us utilize that equipment. We actually did radiological surveillance of the crowd. You know, we're looking for somebody bringing a dirty bomb, you know, in this 90,000 plus spectator event that we had. And we had a few hits of people who had implants put in, radiological implants put in for medical purposes.
Is that sensitive?
Yes. You wear it. I felt like Ghostbusters. I wish we had a backpack on there, and we had these little wands that. And you didn't necessarily have to like wand anybody because it was that sensitive, but you just kind of mingle through the crowd, and maybe about that far away, you could potentially pick something up. So you just head over, and then you would.
What was that conversation like? Starting in a
That conversation was like security forces contained that person, and then so security forces first had to kind of get that person to say, "Excuse me, we need to have a conversation with you." You know, and please follow. Well, it's kind of like, you know, we need to bring you over here. So we continue to do a scan, and then our questions were, have you recently had any medical procedures where you've had some radiation treatment? Oh yeah, I got this thing right here. Like, okay, you take the card, you fill it out. Okay, please keep that because somewhere along the way, somebody else with a backpack's going to pull them over and they're going to go, I've already been scanned. And we go, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Well, talking to company, we would love to bring that. We have 3 labs. You know, well, every place you go for our beach up, we have 3 labs. But water labs we do, so we're responsible for water contingency, deployment in garrison on base, right? I mean, if anytime there's a reason why we cannot use water, that's on us. So we do water surveillance on base. We have a water lab. We do everything with water from drinking. You know, we look for bio agent. We look for chemical agent, and then we have a defense lab. We have, you know, like we can take anything from a powder, whatever powder we put in there, you run it out, so they tell you exactly what it is. And is anyone here major in chemistry? I have a little bit of chemistry. Have you ever heard something called GCMS, gas chromatography, mass spectroscopy? All right, you know how big that machine is? Big like a house, right? Guess what? We have a mobile unit.
It's this big.
GCMS. That's like 200K.
Yeah.
Jealous.
$250,000.
Yeah, $250,000. I can't help GCMS just for responding to about the gas.
Did we need to police our time here? Does anybody know?
We're actually ahead of schedule, so we have a lot of time.
Oh, okay. Wow, I didn't realize that. Did we start early?
We started like 5 minutes early.
Awesome.
Yes.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, so any more questions that you have?
What were your 2?
So I'm telling you guys this, the majority of the officer corps in the United States Air Force, less than probably 1/4% even know that this even occurred. They have no idea that this is coming down the pipeline. So, so the reason why we offered that, we put it into basically one little brown book, right? So it shouldn't be the enlisted force structure, or the officer force structure. It should be the total force structure. And why do we say that? Well, because, for example, all right, we have a lieutenant, a second lieutenant at my base right now. He's my boss, okay? He is just an awesome guy, all right? And he shows up, and I was having this discussion earlier with someone, but so this is basically how it goes, okay? The officer shows up, and they're like, hey, you're in charge of 135 people, all right? I have 92 people that work for me in the RAVCON. There's 35 people over in the tower, and then there's a few people over at airfield operations, and their job is like to take care of runways, take care of the airfield and everything, okay? And by the way, he is the only officer. He's the only one. By the way, he's in charge. All right. So he shows up and he's like, I don't know what to do with my hands, you know, right? So by virtue of his position, right, he's in charge, but he has no idea what's going on, right? So how do you deal with a situation like that? I mean, no matter who you are, that's pretty difficult, and people deal with that in different ways, all right? So you have some people who are like, just tell me what to do, I'll do whatever you say, and please don't lead me down the wrong path, you know what I mean? And you're like, hey, buck up, you know what I mean? And then you've got the one who's like, hey, I've got this, I don't need any help, all right, I know what I'm doing. And then you're like, okay, have at it, you know? And then you have, you know, so those are the two ends of the spectrum, if you will, and then most people fall somewhere in between, okay? And you always hear the stories about the guy or the gal who show up and they're like, I know what's going on, I'm Batman, right? And then they somehow mess everything up, or they make everybody mad, or they fail, or whatever the case may be. But quite honestly, senior NCOs, all right, so tell me if I'm telling this stuff you already know, but Master Sergeant, Senior Master Sergeant, Chief Master Sergeant. We're actually, in our enlisted force structure, we are tasked to actually not mentor, but basically without saying mentor an officer, okay? The young ones, all right? And the reason why is because they understand that, generally speaking, the captains, or the majors, the lieutenant colonels, they're out running squadrons. There's who's left with experience, right? And so, it's important, well, what I'd like to encourage each of you to do, you're going to go somewhere, and some of you will be responsible for 0 airmen, enlisted airmen your entire career. And some of you will step in, just like that lieutenant of mine, and they're going to be in charge of 135 right off the bat, and there's going to be no other officers around other than the squadron commander. So, Conley, if you walk into that situation, do you want to pick up and call the squadron commander and be like, sir, I don't know how to handle such and such a situation, right? Nobody wants to tell their boss they don't know how to deal with such and such situation. That's what we're here for, all right? I would just encourage you guys to rely on your senior enlisted. And in some cases, you'll have to be, you only have one, you know what I'm saying? And you'll have to go to them. I mean, you don't have to, but I'm saying if you're going to, you have to go to that one. And I'm gonna be honest, just like there's some crappy officers, there's some crappy enlisted people too. And it's not about officer enlisted, it's just about knowing what you're talking about, or just suck it, you know what I mean? And some people are okay with sucking. So the point being is that if you get the opportunity though, and there's more than just one senior enlisted, pick each of their brains. Take a little bit of of what you like from the most from each of them, all right? But you're inevitably going to find that one or two that you just really admire, you really respect, you really appreciate the most, all right? Latch on to them. That's what we're there for. At the end of the day, you all are going to be in charge, okay? But it's important that you understand just how important you being in charge and you representing your entire flight, if you will, is, okay? So I'll put it this way. Every quarter, okay, we have quarterly awards. Every quarter, our flight commander will go meet other flight commanders in front of the squadron commander. And they'll say, my airman, my master sergeant, my staff sergeant, my A1C, they deserve this award, and here's why. And to give you an idea, that award, all right, means a lot, all right, because without that, awards are the Air Force's way of validating that you are in fact the best of the best, if you will, okay? So if I don't mean to keep spinning, okay, I'm going to go with Jay. Jerky smile.
That's correct.
Hey, okay, so see, not all of us are super dumb, okay? Most of them are way smarter than us. But my point being is that when you go in there and nobody respects you, all right, as a second lieutenant, as a first lieutenant, and amongst your fellow flight commanders, all right, when you say Master Sergeant Tricky is the one who earns this, he deserved it this quarter, do you think anybody's going to listen to you? No. Trust me, they will not, all right? You're the guy that nobody respects, all right? But if Conley comes in and he has his stuff together, okay, and people respect what he has to say, he didn't come in here and say, I'm Batman, right? And he didn't come in there and say, oh my God, I'm afraid to make a decision, right? Then all of a sudden, you're able to influence better, okay? You're able to represent me and my 92 airmen that work for us better. Right? So please just remember that when you're going on. Everything that you do, everything that you say, when you show up and your uniform isn't right, that takes away from all other 92s. And please believe those other 92C that you came in in that uniform. You know what I mean? That's the way that they see. I think people are waiting on me. So having said that, sorry that y'all have to listen to me for 10 minutes. I think I have a lot better things to do. But if you have questions, whatever the case may be.
I'm Lieutenant McCartney and this is Lieutenant Nelson. We're both in aerospace physiology. He's been in for, 14 years now? I've been in for 6. Both of us are prior enlisted. He's been in the career field longer than I have. I was public health. So the main thing that we do, we're at Vance Air Force Base and we actually work with the chamber out there. If you guys don't know what that is, basically, like Lieutenant Nelson said prior class, it's about a room that's box about this big, and we reduce the amount of oxygen inside and the pressures change. And then we allow individuals that are air crew to be able to simulate as if they were at high altitude and be able to go through hypoxia. So we take oxygen away from them and they get to feel their symptoms. So some individuals may feel some bad symptoms such as nausea, headaches, things like that, versus individuals like me, I get a little euphoric and a little dizziness and tingling. So, and that can be a little bad, because, pretty bad because you can become that happy drunk, which we kind of had yesterday. But we also do other things because with those hypoxia incidents, it does affect us whenever we're in the aircraft, and it can affect our performance. We also deal with mishap investigations. We'll also deal with some air sickness, especially at UPT. We'll spin them in the Barony chair and things like that. What else?
That's it.
Yeah. And then the last class also mentioned like the centrifuge. We also do part of that. So some of you have seen videos of like people in like a little cockpit, and then we put them at high gravitational forces. We also do that also, in our curriculum. So,
Great. Hi everyone, I'm Lieutenant Smart. I'm in the Medical Service Corps. We do all the admin functions for all the medical groups across the Air Force. Usually people that come into this field have backgrounds or degrees in business administration or healthcare administration. So it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but we control the money, we control the manpower, and we control all the juice that makes the machine go, so to speak, in the main group. So I'm on the support side of the house, whereas these guys are on the operations side of the house. So that's kind of how we're split. I'm going to let Dr. Morgan talk next, and you guys can ask us some questions, hopefully.
So I already told you what I do. That's the biggest thing. Physician over at Advanced Air Force Base. I'm a pediatrician on there, and I'm in the medical corps itself for an actual operation. But I've been here 5 months, been since 2011, I think. Yeah. But other than that, let me know what questions you guys have for any of these individuals. And this is your guys' time, so just hands up, blurt out, whatever's easy for you.
Dr. Morgan, I was just wondering, what's the likelihood of physicians or pediatricians being deployed, and for how long, what cycles?
As physicians as a whole, it's high. As a physician, you got to realize when you go into the military, military one. You guys are all known as officers. That's the first thing you are. You're an officer. Second, you're a physician. Third, you're your specialty. So the military has 3 ways they can utilize me. And if you have prior training or other sources that they might utilize you, they may say, hey, we might pull you with that. But as a pediatrician, very rare. There's only 1 or 2 spots right now for deployment. They're usually about 6-9 month deployments, and they're all volunteers. They're pretty much like, I want to go. And last I heard right now, the last one they have is in Afghanistan. They had one in Iraq, but that one closed out, downsizing the troops. But it all depends. If they want to send me over as a GMO, basic general medical officer, then I can do pretty much whatever they want me to do. Treat, active duties, run the clinic, ER, whatever it is. Or they can send me over as a captain and put me in kind of more of an admin kind of role. Not actually out in the field, they kind of run and push pencils and kind of control how things come in and out of the base. But it's rare for the medical corps to be put anywhere outside of what you do, because that's not a good use of resources. But yeah, that's happening.
Thanks, sir.
How often do does people go to medical school before actually getting into this job like you, sir?
For me, let's see, who was born before 1999? All right, good. So I don't feel that old. So I started college in 1999. This is kind of a second career for me. I was actually going to go into OSI Special Forces. I did forensics, chemistry, criminal justice, and master's of criminal justice. Then went over and switched into medicine. So in 2011, I started medicine. And now I'm practicing. I just graduated this year from residency. So it's about 8 years typically. you know, from the time you start to the time that you finish in practice independently. So depends on how much of a burner they have now. Joint programs where you can do your undergrad and med school at the same time, and that's, I think you're on crack if you want to do it, to be frank, because that's a lot of stuff you got to learn real quick. It's usually 6 years complete, and you go 24/7. There's no breaks. So depending on what you want to do, you can do it.
What do you see, what is the difference between being an officer and being a private enlisted in Air Force?
Well, he would know better than Aerospace itself.
And there's two ways to answer that. As far as just being an officer and enlisted, officer just meaning how you carry yourself. You are going to be a leader. You're going to have folks looking up to you, so you definitely want to carry yourself, especially depending on the core values of your respective Corps. As far as aerospace phys, specifically, typically when I enlisted, I like to use this word, the grunt work, and do a lot of the maintenance on the chamber, a lot of administrative. As an officer, it's a lot of teaching. Teaching, lesson plan. You're going to have students ranging from pilots, boom operators, navigators, making sure one, the present material, making sure your students understand it. And the biggest thing with it, you're trying to save lives. You're trying to prevent mishaps from occurring because with any student that goes through the pilot training, it's typically a year long. Their first 2 weeks, so with aerospace physiology. And as far as them getting into refresher training, they'll give you for another 4 to 5 years. So we'll make sure everything we teach them and tell them mistakes and they understand it, so that way they're as safe as possible.
I think one interesting fact too that I learned from these guys, how big is your career field? Like how many people total in the whole Air Force do your job?
Let's say 300 total, as counting enlisted and officers.
It's very small. Very
Tiny.
small. Around 900 do mine across the Air Force, and then all that yours.
Yeah, tons. I mean, if you count all the nurses, techs, 4Ns, 4As, that would count towards us and providers. We probably would have to say we pay a very large portion, probably 10% of the Air Force. It's going to be somewhat in the actual medical corps itself. That's a big part. So I'm just another king of hot. These guys are the giants walking around and
Really
stuff on us.
1%. You really are.
What else?
So how do you think being enlisted first, then becoming an officer helped you, be a better leader?
It helped me out a lot to understand both sides of it. And there's not everyone, but there's some folks enlisted, they might not respect officer corps, and officer corps might not respect the enlisted corps, but being able to be on both sides of it, doing the work, have an understanding as far as what those folks are doing, definitely appreciated what they do. So I think you have an appreciation for both sides, and you can relate to what those individuals may be going through as well. I definitely think it helped me out.
Do you guys have to take much anyway?
You're not allowed to film us now, sorry. Are you filming us? What the?
What other questions you guys got? We'll be nice now. We're being filmed.
Is that everything you said earlier?
Yeah.
Forget about that.
Yeah. But yeah, man, this is a thing that's fun. So if you get pilot slides or you get this as a job or whatever, it was a blast, especially under AFSOC. It was very rewarding, very hard. I got to be a part of a lot of cool things that I can't say, but they're all things, like a lot of things you're in and want to be a part of. So it's cool.
One thing that you can tell you is it's not just what's on the news. If you see something on the news, a conflict, we have high definition interaction with what's going on the news. So, the kind of clarity you have on the TV at home is what we have with us in the airport.
Once you out of pilot training, everyone's like, yeah, I want to do this, I want to do this.
If that's at all exciting to you guys,
You see it a little bit like,
wake him up. Wake him up. This is the only thing that I ask. You just stay awake when I'm talking. It's embarrassing.
You kind of bond.
You called him out. Called him out.
You're like, nobody move, nobody move.
Anyways, he's gonna get like lashings. He's gonna get like punched in the face. That's what they do here.
You guys, no hazing over that.
Yeah.
I apologize immediately. I'm not telling you who it was.
But we, yeah, it was nobody. Nobody fell asleep.
He's talking to me, actually.
It was Casey.
But yeah, we did a lot of like supporting the different special operations ground forces, keeping them safe. So that's kind of the job that we're going to if you're interested in what Oklahoma Air National Guard. That's what we're going to be supporting the special operations forces.
Any other questions?
We have time for one more question.
It's got to be a good one. What's up, man?
So as an aviation maintenance crew,
If you go to the
what's
heavy world,
around the pay
like
range?
C-17s,
What's the pay scale around?
upgrade aircraft,
When
they're
you
pretty
start
much
off
as soon as
at-
we get there.
So I assume it's
So there are three, more so right short at T1 and
Yeah. Right.
So you're at T6 now.
Yeah.
So if you do get like do you have to go back through the T38 at all?
You
Or
get
do you have to
about 50 hours.
You get bonuses if positive instead of pay, so you get flight pay.
Yeah, you get bonuses and app.
I haven't gotten it yet. Depends on what
We're
airplane,
not
but
getting
15 to.
Any day.
You haven't got the news yet?
Make way more money with
Well, thank you guys for hanging out. We're gonna hang out afterwards. If you got questions for the POCs, if you guys got questions on nav pilot stuff or going to pipeline stuff,
man, I was,
hit us up. So
freshman.
We'll be at Joe's later.
yeah, we'll be at some of those later with these guys.
Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
No, I'm not gonna start.
Right, you know what aircraft? Grab your
No idea. I do for Pensacola, I have a report day too, is actually, so I'm excited. Yeah, I know, I really don't.
Just excuse yourself and stay on.
I know, well, that's yeah, I know, I heard I was doing that first, I was like, yeah, that's good. And then I get back, I have about 2 weeks of capital status, and then I go to water show.
Are you recording right now?
Yes, sir.
Alright guys, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about
Captain Guerrero,
you have to keep asking questions.
Major Brian Hart,
And you have to say
Captain Trey Taylor. All right. I'm a instructor pilot over at Advanced Air Force Base in the T6.
Okay, so,
I
and then,
can speak if you guys have any
the
questions about
POCs,
pilot training.
this is
Feel
for
free
you
to
guys
ask.
too, so please ask
This is my
questions.
first assignment, so I haven't been out to the
If
big
you
Air
wanna
Force
ask
yet.
offline or whatever,
We'll keep 1 or 2 guys per class back to be an
that's
instructor
really
for
cool.
3 years, then you go on to
This is
a
for
big assignment. But if you guys have any questions about how to get to pilot training, how to get through it, or how that whole process works, that's what I can speak to. As far as we're air battle managers, we fly in the AWACS. We're both reservists as well, so we are full-time air reserve technicians. So we work full-time in our squadron as civilians, basically. And then when the only time we're technically military guys is when we're doing our official military duty days that we have as a traditional reservist. So it's kind of cool. We get to wear a uniform every day, but we're still technically civilians. So air battle management. Big picture is, we're trying to control the airspace that we're flying in, and not allow the enemy basically to have that airspace. So we do that with, multiple different platforms in our career field, JSTARS, AWACS, and also ground stations, CRCs. So all those control the airspace, allow fighters, bombers, tankers to operate in that airspace. And we let all those guys know, hey, here's where the bad guys are, here's where the threats are, stuff like that. If we were in an actual air war, a lot of the stuff that we're doing now, Afghanistan, Iraq, is we're out there flying. We've got fighters under our control, and Army guys on the ground start getting shot at, get in a situation where they are in contact with the enemy. They want air support, so they send up a request through their chain. The request comes to us saying, hey, you guys need to get some air support over this situation. Call up the fighter pilots, say, hey, contact this guy on the ground. He goes over there in his B1 or his F-15 or his B-52, drops a bunch of bombs on the bad guys. So we're kind of the guy, we're talking to everybody, and so those requests come through us, and we start pushing those out, making sure that they've got gas, they've got bombs, and they're helping out the guys on the ground. So that's the big thing that we're doing right now with the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Okay, so.
As far as the air battle management career field, so everybody starts out at Tyndall Air Force Base, that's in Panama City, Florida. So you'll do anywhere from about, I think it is like 10 months. So 10 months is about a year, you hang out in casual status, finish your training there, so you'll get rated in your class, and they'll decide what career field you go to, whether it's J-Stars or CRC, you're going to go NATO AWACS, you're going to go to Elmendorf or Kadena, or you're going to go to Tinker, which is basically the mecca for all the air battle managers, right? So you figure out where you're going, you get there, you get to Tinker, and it's about another year's worth of training before you become a CMR, so Combat Mission Ready member. And then, like you were saying, our deployment cycles is basically 6 on, 6 off. Somewhere, it rotates all the time, but we're reservists, so it's 1 to 5.
Yeah, about a 1 to 5 ratio is what they expect out of a reserve unit. So we typically expect an activation every 2 to 3 years is kind of what we look at. As opposed to our active duty counterparts are 4 months on, 4 months off, or 6 months on, 6 months off, stuff like that. So they're on a lot higher of an option. All the ground guys and J-Stars guys are doing pretty much the same amount. So it's about, they're spending about half the year deployed every year.
And then went through college, getting paid to go.
Any questions for about pilot training? Questions about us? About deployed life, things like that. So anything.
And then
once he got done, then applied
you
for
talked about being an air battle manager over Iraq or Afghanistan. But in the case that we're fighting a war and we don't have air superiority, how does that change the mission?
A lot of us come from all over, so we got maintenance
rules of engagement. So we'll run the ID matrix. So let's say we go to somewhere where we don't have air superiority, there are other fighter aircraft. We have to figure out who's the bad guy, right? How do we figure out they're a bad guy, and then how are we gonna attrit this guy? So let's say Iraq, when they did have aircraft flying out, we knew where their air bases were. We knew where they were going to take off. We knew they weren't going to have certain modes and codes, so they were going to be outlaw, basically because they're taking off out of Baghdad land. Spades, which means they lack of any correct code, modes or codes. We put all those things together in the ID matrix. We have the big radar, so we can paint the big picture as far as who is what and where they are, right? So we tell the Viper guys or the Eagle guys, these bad guys are here, go get them.
Yeah, a lot of them are named to Predators.
So that's how we gain the air superiority, is by figuring out who's who in the zoo and letting the guys go out and kill them. Go out and kill them.
So all of our on the jet, we're split up into kind of 2 different sections. We have a surveillance section and a weapons section. Surveillance guys are the guys that are looking downrange into the bad guy. So say Iraq, Afghanistan, China, whoever's a bad guy that we want to fight over that day. So they're looking there and detecting and tracking any aircraft that are taking off in that country. While our weapons guys are talking to all our good aircraft. So we know who all our good guys are because they've got electronic signatures on their jets, the modes and codes that they put in and they squat. So when we determine who the bad guys are and the good guys are, and we tell the good guys to kill the bad guys, and that's how we gain that air superiority. So pushing into Iraq, day 1 of the war, from like Desert Storm and stuff like that, when they were still flying aircraft, it's just a horde of jets going in there, a horde of tankers, 3 or 4 AWACS who are all controlling. Hey, you've got this piece, they've got this piece, somebody else has this piece. It's everybody pushing in at the same time, and fusing all that information together is pretty much what we do. We try to give the pilots, hey, here's the little bit of information you need. They don't care about what's going on over here or over here. They care about what's going on 100 miles in front of them and who they need to shoot down. So we give them that information. They don't need the rest of this stuff. That's what we do on the jet, is we take all that information and then we figure out, hey, this is the puzzle we need to get these guys. Hey, these tankers need this guy needs gas, so they need to go here. It's a hair on fire kind of, day 1, day 2, first couple weeks of the war is the crazy stuff. So
but that doesn't mean.
Can I emphasize more?
Yeah, that's fine.
To what extent do air battle managers play
But it's your choice.
kind of tactical decision making, playing the chess game or whatever? To what extent are you taking in the information and just filtering the info back to other people to make decisions, making sure they have the info?
How do we determine what information they need?
To what extent are you making the tactical decisions on what needs to go where, what resources need to do what, and to what extent are you just filtering the information back?
So depending upon like what situation we are in kind of a war type of campaign, we're given different authorities as an air battle management crew. So sometimes we could have the authority to declare guys hostile and tell fighters to shoot them down. Sometimes that restriction is held off, and all we can do is identify things, and then we have to push that information back to colonels and generals on the ground saying, hey, can we go shoot this guy down? And then it takes them 10, 15 minutes to come back and say yes or no, and then push that information out. So depending upon where we are at in campaign, depends on what type of information we're allowed to make on our own.
So it goes back to the rules of engagement, what's going on politically at that point, so decentralized command.
And so a guy like me, like I've worked as the guy on the ground in the AOC, helping make those decisions. I'm on the jet, so I mean, we go back and forth from a lot of different jobs everywhere. So 17-year career, is typically a mission crew commander on the AWACS will be, you've got 10 years of experience going into it. So you've got a good amount of experience and knowledge of all the other pieces. So you're putting all that together to take a lot of that responsibility.
Thank you.
Any other questions? What do you guys want to do? Flyers? Which one? One. Anybody else? I need to know what they want to do.
Good one, Claire.
Okay.
Oh, it's that.
This is the second one. Yeah, the thing about it is it's really fun career. I mean, the training is arduous and you have to study a lot, but you start off in Panama City, so you're right on the beach, coming right out of college. It's a good time, it really is. You get to tinker, you guys know Tinker, but it can really be fun, and it's what you make of it, but you have the decision to go out, branch out in the Air Force, whereas you might get pipelined into certain areas whenever you're doing OSI or something like that.
Any question about like the flying for the pilot training?
Actually, Rick, we're starting a football team. We're kind of like the guards kind of like football team.
Deployment life, like just
you can say, okay, I like this guy, I like this guy, I like this guy.
like we were talking about,
We're
we're deployed in our career field about half the time
to do these
active duty guys are, so 6 on, 6 off, or maybe 4 months out of the year. So you're deployed a lot. Deployed life when you're at a base mobilization base, not in the middle of Afghanistan or something like that, it's not bad. You've got all the amenities that you need. You get a lot of stuff, DX type stuff. We had a pool on base, we had rooms that we were like a quarter of a room. We had a bathroom in the room with 4 people in the room. Wi-Fi.
I had my first kid in college.
So I had 5 trying to take up all the bandwidth and the Wi-Fi to play their Xbox and stuff. You'd be the crap out of this guy and get the bandwidth. Sounds like it's all good.
But like I was in
Reach back to your family and friends back in the States is really good. So first time I deployed, I was telling the last group, we got 2 phone calls a week, 15 minutes. That's pretty much, you could write a letter, you could type an email, but you couldn't get on the phone and talk to people. Now with the Wi-Fi, iMessaging, all that kind of stuff. I'm sending text messages to my wife, the Wi-Fi over in the Middle East, so it's kind of nice. Probably a little more than sometimes. A lot of things you can't say, so hey, I gotta go to work, and stuff like that. But know that I'm going to work, I'm going to fly, and get back, 18 hours later. So
my experience,
she's like, I would worry every time you go fly.
My bosses and stuff, I'm like working late,
Somebody's
like,
shaking us.
get the hell out of here.
Well, they can't touch us.
Go back home. That's the
It's like, why would you work?
It's not bad. The deployment life, like I was telling them earlier, I was prior Army enlisted, so I did a year in Iraq, and that sucked. But like he said, Wi-Fi, pools, alcohol. I mean, you fly and you have X amount of days off, so you actually, it almost feels like you work less when you're deployed, but when you actually work, you're just working.
Yeah, our deployment sorties were 16-hour sorties, so we'd show up 2 hours, would show up and then would take off and fly for about 14 hours, so 16-hour crew duty days, so 2 hours prior to taking off, 14 hours flying, and we get back in about an hour after we land, we're finally back, going to get some food and you go to bed. So it's a long day, but then you wind up getting 2 days off after that, so you fly out every third day. So it wasn't too bad.
Published order.
Attention to orders. Special Order 670-01 by direction of the Commander. Det 670, Cadet Chelsea Click is appointed Commander, 670th Cadet Wing, effective 13 December 2014.
Sir, I relinquish command.
Sir, I assume command.
And present your new wing commander. And with that, she gets an automatic promotion. It's not how it happens on. When arthritis starts to set in, it always helps to use your tongue to. So, congratulations. I think this is where you say a few words, and then there's a lot of food over there, so probably make it short.
All right, 100s. I hope you look forward to next semester. We got a lot of new things planned. 200s. My only advice to you is come ready. We're leaving you in the capable hands of Cadet Merrill and Cadet Faulkner, so y'all better study up. Other than that, let's go ahead and eat.
All right.
Whoop. We have drinks over there.
I think there were 18 of you, and there's 4. 5, 6.
Take a hold, please.
I saw some of them were trying to get out of here. But I just wanted to give you a token of our appreciation for taking time out of your busy schedule in your day to drive down here and go to talk to everybody. But I'm guessing most everybody's going to go to Joe's and get a beer or something. But we love it when you guys come down and talk to them, tell them about what the real Air Force is like as opposed to my jaded view from my little microscope. I'm sure it's a lot of the same stories and stuff, so hopefully you got a different perspective on how things are going to be or how you're hoping they're going to be, or you're going to change them to make them better, right? Okay. Well, thanks again for coming. Appreciate it. We'll just funnel everybody through the line. Thank you.
Oh, you're good.
Alright, let's give our guests another round of applause. Alright, next we have some awards. So, Cadet Merrill, please come up.
All right, I'll make this short and sweet. If you pledged honorable vote this semester and got initiated, please raise your hand. All right, these guys put in a lot of hard work, so let's give them a round of applause. The first award we got goes to our outstanding pledge of the semester. This isn't a most improved award. This goes to somebody who was rock solid from day 1 to day 40. He not only committed himself to learning, basically everything we threw at him and much more. He, at one point, also took it upon himself to memorize the entire org chart just on his own. And this goes to Cadet Parks, who I believe isn't here because it's past his bedtime. If we're here, it would go to him. So let's hear a round of applause. All right, next we have staff member of the semester. This goes to somebody who not only exceeded my expectations set forth, but pretty much the entire squadron's. This semester he had a job in public affairs. He set up our bulletin board up there. It looks great. He was also our de facto safety officer. So he did a lot of great stuff with that. He made sure all our functions were safe, took it upon himself to look at all the outlines, make sure there were no hazards along the way. And this goes to Cadet Billy. And finally, we have Arnie of the semester. This goes to any Arnold Air member, whether it's a staff member or not. The overall best Arnie we had this semester contributed the most. This was our cat herder for the semester. Made sure we had everybody at Express when we needed them, community service. He organized the canned food drive, and he has even, skipped a couple of his own classes to make sure we can have people where we need them. And this goes to Cadet Radford. And finally, for the canned food drive. Most of you should have saw those numbers last night, but we did have a small update. Overall, we earned 1,280 cans, which is almost twice what we earned last year. Alpha Flight almost single-handedly met our goal last year of 700 cans. They raised 616. Yep, and that was great. Charlie came in last minute for second place with 377 cans. Good job, Charlie. And Bravo Flight. Yeah, good job. And Bravo Flight, 287 cans. So that's really great. This goes to help people here in Stillwater. So, thank you very much.
All right, so we got a couple of basically last or end of semester awards for the flight. So for this last month, the Warrior Flight of the semester was Charlie Flight. All right, our next one is our our Honor Flight of the month, and the Honor Flight of the month goes to Charlie. Bravo Flight. Now, early in the semester, I asked the flight commanders if they could get some volunteering hours from their flights to find out, what was the overall hours that they put in, and so they got that to me. With that and actually, the way we have it now is everybody met the goal. So all the flights, basically, what you had to do is you had to get to 100 total volunteer hours, basically in one trip flight. Whether some people only had 2 hours or they had 100 hours. So if I could have all the flight commanders come up, you all have received the your flights have received the volunteer streamer.
Alpha's is bad.
All right, and then our second to last one is our academic streamer. And the way this one works is we just took all of your warrior knowledge scores and we added them all up and we got an average. And the winner of the academic flight streamer goes to Bravo Flight. And now if I could have Colonel Charrington, he's going to present the top flight of this semester award.
So who got this? Who wanted this?
Bravo! Alpha Flight, sir.
So,
Jeff Wingstaff.
You said Alpha Flight, right?
Yes, sir.
Come on up then.
Silent killer.
We got one last award here. If I could have Cadet Gabbard come up, please. And go ahead and let you see he's getting a Meritorious Service, Cadet Meritorious Service Award for his time as Cadet Wing Commander. Did an outstanding job of keeping you guys all herded like cats into one collective goal. And for everyone that's not being on Wing Commander and is striving to do that, here's the one that you have to emulate and follow. So hopefully, well, I know that that clicks up for the challenge, and that's actually the one that you'll have to take whatever she passes on to you guys this next semester and make it better. So, congratulations.
I think we have enough time to do one last flight chance, so if you guys can hurry up, let's get this started. Let's make it loud. Also, make sure you guys get food, there's plenty left.
Show us outside.
All right, let's see what you guys got and make it loud and proud. Shape for detachment foundation. Let's start off with top flight, Alpha. Alpha Flight, who are we? Top Flight! Ooh, kill them! Alright, Bravo Flight.
In honor of Cadet Parks not being here because it's past his bedtime, Bravo Flight! What makes the grass grow? Blood makes the grass grow! Kill, kill, kill!
Charlie Flight.
Charlie Bill, strong fight, hard fight, fighting. He was gonna be a lieutenant someday. Got blood on our face, we set the pace, waving our flag all over the place. And we will fight you. Scream it! We will fight you.
So, that is the last lap of the semester. Good luck on you guys' finals, and see you guys next semester. Next